Haleh, thank you for joining me today. I am looking forward to this conversation because I think you bring to light a lot of things that we don't think about as the preservers of our family's memories, but also from a business standpoint, we have so many digital assets, and you're the CEO and founder of Picturli. So tell us about Picturli and your mission.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Angela. It's wonderful to be here. I started Picturely when there's several different things that went into the idea of Picturely. One was when my parents left Iran during the Iranian Revolution. They really didn't have time to bring anything with them. It was just kind of like pack and go. And what they ended up packing, when my mom ended up packing, was all the family memories. So then I found myself working in advertising in my sort of 20s all the way to my 40s. And during that time, when there was a lull in the production, I was the executive producer. When in production, I would sort of bring my photos in and start scanning them and sharing them with my family that live in 4 continents. And they were flabbergasted at how good it looked and the fact that they had never even seen it. I have 26 first cousins just on my mom's side, and so many of them had never seen these photos of my parents and things like that. And so that was one of them. Another idea was that I essentially was the photographer and the project maker for all my friends who had kids, and I would make calendars and things like that. And it would just like that's my favorite gift to give any of my friends or
Mhm,
family members. And it
mhm,
was just bring so much joy. And I thought, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I can make a business like making things for people and helping
mhm.
them preserve their memories. And voila, 9 years later, here we are.
Yeah, it's such a powerful story to be kind of like the fuel for your business. This kind of tragic story where you could only take what you could carry, and it gave you like this importance for, family memories, and now you treasure them and you help other people treasure them too. I love that so much. And yeah, I don't think we really understand how much we need to make sure that we curate those things and organize them well. But first, you mentioned your advertising experience. You've worked with some really big brands, and you bring that experience to your business now. So tell us about some of those lessons that you learned working with brands like Apple and Jaguar, and some of those recognizable names, and how you apply it to your business, and maybe some lessons that listeners can learn as well.
The biggest lesson that I learned being an operations director for the last approximately 10 years of my career is that we always thought about, where the company is going and how do we prepare for where we want to get to. And so I was responsible for making sure that all assets were organized in a way that the creative team could find it, the account team that dealt with the clients could easily find it, and essentially every department that needed the assets to be able to easily find them. And A, it's coming up with the system of how they're organized, and B, it's training every every department and department head on how to adopt that.
Mhm.
And so adoption is huge. I've come up with systems for myself where I'm like, oh, this is a great system. And then I didn't adopt it. And so, of course, if I'm not adopting it, my team's not going to adopt it, right? So adoption is really big. You have to sort of play around with what works best for your brain and know how to be able to access, I'm also a life coach and a business coach. And the way I coach my clients in terms of business is think of your future self.
Mhm.
In 10 years from now, how would you want to, if you wanted to sell your company, for example, how do you want to organize your assets and also the business information so you can easily hand it off, or all your passwords in a password manager, for example,
Mhm.
and are all the assets in a sheet where you can easily see what you've purchased and how much you paid for it and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of that, it's just thinking of your future self,
Mm-hmm.
um, to be able to manage and organize all of your stuff.
Yeah, I think that that's like super important. I mean, to think about how are you going to use things in the future? We get so caught up in the minute and we're in a rush. And to think about, hey, if I wanted to sell this business, do you want to have all the logos together? Do you want to have all of the routine assets that you have together and all of those things to get so somebody else can use it? And then too, if you have an assistant or somebody on your team, but when you say system, I think some people go, oh, I can't create a system. That's too complicated. Like, what? You lost me at system. I mean, system can be as easy as creating a file name structure, right?
Exactly. I'm talking about, and I'm literally talking about a folder structure.
Yeah.
It's just
Mhm.
do you think in terms of years, or do you
Mhm.
think in terms of like documents? Like, do you want to have a finance folder and then in the finance folder have all the years? Or do you want to have a year and in that year folder have a finance folder, have a, whatever it is, like contract folder? It's
Mhm.
just the way your brain works. It's the way, the way you want to be able to access your files best.
Mhm.
So, and if it doesn't suit your needs, if it's organized, even if it's the what you thought was going to happen is not really the way you want it to happen, if it's organized enough, you'll be able to go back and change that.
Mhm. Yeah, or maybe have somebody do that for you. That's
Exactly.
that's the ideal situation, right? And so,
Exactly.
along with your business, you're in the LA area. There are a lot of wealthy folks out there. You might even serve some celebrity clients. And I think all too often, my listeners and the women I work with sell themselves short and don't think about working with those high ticket clients. And so I think it would be a really great opportunity for you to share some perspective on ways that we can serve high ticket clients and position ourselves for them.
It's such a great question. The first thing that I want to urge, especially women entrepreneurs, is that you went into business because your expertise matters and it has value. And even if you're not the expert at it yet, you know more than they do. No matter who
Right.
you're talking to, you know more than they do. You know, um, there's so much struggle with our own limiting beliefs and, am I good enough for this? Am I good enough for that person? And it just takes time to practice. For example, the first podcast I did, I was petrified. Like, oh my God, is this going to live forever? And what am I going to look like? And what am I going to say? So the first time of anything is going to be hard and it's going to be petrifying no matter what. Whether you're talking about your pricing or whether you're talking to someone who's famous, whether you're talking to someone who's rich or richer than you, these are all the stories that we have in, conjured up in our sphere, in our ecosystem. And
Mm-hmm.
I call it the ecosystem. It's not the way we were born. This is what has developed through becoming an adult. And it's mainly breaking that down
Mm-hmm.
and looking at who you truly are and what your gift is to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the world needs your gift.
Mm-hmm.
So get out of your own way and show the world your gift. And if you truly practice this, it doesn't matter whether your client is famous or rich or just a normal person that is really wants to access what you have to give and what you have to say and
Mm-hmm.
what you have to sell and what your services are.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I ran across that when I had a quote unquote famous person on the podcast, and I didn't realize who they were. And I totally was like, what do you want to be on my podcast for? And so I ran into that myself, even though I had been podcasting for more than a year, and I was so surprised by that. But I often hear too that people don't think high ticket clients will appreciate what they do, because I think somebody who's judging someone by the amount of fame or the amount of money that they have automatically sees themselves as better than everybody else. Is that at your experience, or have you been truly appreciated by people that maybe are influential that you've served?
Um, I've had several clients who I've never met, and I've only
Mhm,
dealt with their assistants or house
mhm,
managers. But I always, especially when I'm making a photo book, I've made photo books for several what we call high ticket clients
mhm,
or celebrity clients or whatever.
mhm,
I always receive the message that this was the best gift that they've ever received, even though they paid for it. It wasn't a gift, but
mhm.
it was a true gift to themselves.
Right.
So, yeah, with the work that I do, it's always so
Mhm,
appreciated.
mm,
With the LA fires, so I'm in Los Angeles. I
mhm,
own the largest photo organization and archiving studio in Los Angeles. And with the LA fires, I got so many clients who lived in the Pacific Palisades. One
mm,
of them called me and said, crying, sobbing, I lost everything. It's been horrific. It's been a journey, but the thing that I'm most grateful for is that you were able to archive all the family memories.
mm.
And it's just like receiving that. I mean, I was just like sobbing with him. But, receiving that is just like so much gratitude in the work that we
Right.
do. So if you just show up as yourself,
Mhm,
and if you always know what your why is as an entrepreneur,
mm,
what is your why? Like, why do you want to do this? Like, for me, my why was I just want to be able to help as many families as possible to preserve
mhm,
their photos because
mhm,
mine were lost. And I have very little memories of my childhood because of all the trauma that I experienced
mm,
while the last sort of 6 to 8 months of living in Iran. I don't really
mhm,
remember a lot of my childhood. It's like in that part of my brain and it's blocked, the bad stuff and the good stuff. So
mm,
for me, the my photos were the gateways to my memories. And I
mhm,
believe that that is the case for all of us, right?
mhm,
But then it becomes so overwhelming and
mhm,
as to how to manage that and go through that.
mhm.
So it becomes a business because it's overwhelming. If it was overwhelming for me, it's going to be overwhelming for other people, right? So and then so that's my service essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, and you will find the people that value your service from all walks of life. And it's not just a certain person. And so I think, having your why, but realizing there are people out there that value it as well is so important. So, talk to us about why professional photo organizers are so important. What's the difference between having somebody like you do it for you as opposed to doing a DIY?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Um, I don't know if every professional photo organizer does what we do, but it's really important for me to be able to provide a client with assets, meaning the files that we are digitizing or scanning for them that are renamed and redated. So we start every project with a family tree so that we can organize all of their assets chronologically. And once we scan it or digitize the tapes or films or whatever that is, we rename and redate all those files. So if you were born in 1970 and your fifth birthday obviously is in 1975. Those stack of photos from your fifth birthday will be named Angela's fifth birthday, 1975, whatever your birthday is, 0515 for May 15th. So it's really important for me to be able to give something to the client that is searchable and sortable.
Hmm.
And that goes back to my sort of advertising days to make sure like assets are named properly. I worked on many car accounts and there's so many different levels. Like, you have a car coming out, but there's different trims of that car. There's like the high-end trim with, the leather seats and all sorts of different things that you could get, or the crank down windows, the
Mhm.
non-automated. So it's really important to have a really good naming convention. No matter what your business is, it's really important to have a naming convention. Not only, I mean, for me, I own essentially a digital asset management company because
Mhm.
that's what we do. We manage the digital assets. But even no matter what kind of business you're in, you're going to have digital assets, whether it's client contracts or whatever it is. It's really important to have a naming structure whereby you can find your assets.
Yeah. No, and I think too, just not having somebody who's helping you with, you know, organizing it all may mean the difference of it getting done or not completely.
Well, and then there's that, right? I didn't even say, so it becomes really overwhelming. I mean, I have clients who send me photos because they go, well, let me organize it first. And so I explain that please don't take anything out of the albums because the albums tell us what the organization that you had intended for it was. So don't
Mm.
take it out because you may have something written in there that will tell us that's 1992. So if you take it out,
Mhm.
I don't know that that's 1992 because it's not on the back of the photo in the 90s.
Mm. Gotcha.
So it just gets so over. I had a client last week who literally sent me sob emojis. I tried and I failed. Please come this week. So it's just too overwhelming. And then let's not forget all the digital mess, from when we had digital cameras.
Yeah.
I don't know when you adopted with digital, but it came out in around 1996, 1997, and there was no iCloud or Dropbox or Google Drive. There was none of that. So
Mhm.
we ended up like taking the photos, downloading it or uploading it to Kodak Gallery, which then it ended, and probably got prints from that. And so we're
Mhm.
constantly in search of good digital assets with our clients because that is the original form of when they got their digital cameras. And so
Mhm.
many times they're like, oh, I don't know what I did with that. They probably deleted it after I got my photos printed. But so we actually do consolidate and sort a lot of digital libraries as well because that is really overwhelming.
Mhm. Yeah. And that leads into one of my next questions is that we have I have tens of thousands of photos on my phone right now. And like you mentioned, I've got from my digital camera, I've got little memory cards and I have paper photos, and I've been the family collector of photos. And so, what are some steps for somebody who's feeling that overwhelm? Where is it? Where are some tips? Where can we maybe begin to maybe find some method in the madness?
There's if you have an iPhone, there's some apps that actually help you curate and get
Mhm.
organized. It sort of suggests, can I delete these for you? We have so many clients who, I mean, me included, not as much anymore because of what the work I'm in. I don't actually take that
Right.
much photos. And, the thing that I always, with any sort of, with any action, I always advise for all your actions, whether you're shopping or you're taking photos, is to do it intentionally. Like, do you
Mhm.
really need to have 57 photos of your kid going to school of his or her first day? I don't think you need 57, maybe 3.
56. Okay, 56.
you know so make sure you're taking things intentionally, and then there's apps. If obviously the intentional part can come today or moving forward
Mhm.
whenever you're
Mhm.
listening to this.
Mhm.
But you can download the Ollie app, Ollie, I believe, the Ollie
Mhm.
app, and it's pretty good. It sort of kind of has an AI way of suggesting the photos that may have closed eyes in them. And it gives you a chance to take a look and delete some of the stuff.
Mhm.
I have some strategies that I teach. One of the strategies is to take today's date, whatever it is you're listening to this podcast, take a date and go back in time on that date. So whatever, today's March 4th. So go back to March 4th, to the earliest March 4th photos that you may have in your photos, and just go through all the March 4th photos in your
Mhm.
camera roll and just
Mhm.
delete those or heart them, favorite them.
Mhm.
Favoriting photos is a great way to be able to really enjoy your photos and be able
Mhm.
to really make some really good, cards at the end of the year, photo
Mhm.
books, or whatever it is, however it is that you want to enjoy them.
Mhm.
So that's one strategy. Another strategy is to go on your maps. And you can go on your maps and not only be able to find, like, instead of going like, oh my God, when were we in North Carolina? And go through like, okay, wait, was it that year or was it the year before? And you're literally scrolling through your photo trying to find North Carolina. Well, if you go on your maps, and this is really important, your phone, the map needs to be on your phone. So if you've turned that off, it's not going to come up. So
Mhm.
I'm assuming that your map is on for when you
Mhm.
take photos, your geolocation, I mean. And
Mhm.
so if you go into the map section of your camera roll in your photos, you'll be able to find all the places that you've been to, the Caribbean, Europe, whatever that is, and choose it on the map and clean out your photos that way. One last thing I want to say is I find it a lot less overwhelming to curate your photos, heart or delete them when the event has passed, like if it's way in the past. If you just came back from a trip, yes, for me, I always do it right away. But sometimes, I went to Cuba and Mexico City and I had a camera, my husband had a phone, I had a phone. It was just too overwhelming when we came back. I'm like, I don't know, I like all these photos. So I actually gave it to one of my employees to curate. Like, I can't do this. You pick out the best ones.
Yeah. But make sure that you like look at them when you get back from your trip and decide which one do you like and
Definitely. Definitely hearting, put a heart on those that you really take your breath away, and then come back later to delete the ones you don't like.
yeah. I think it's a really good idea and a way to savor your trip. So, well, tell us about ways that you preserve, like what are the physical things that you um create for your clients that preserve their memories? I think it probably listeners or somebody watching might be, okay, they're gonna organize the digital assets, but what are the some of the things you create or what does it look like when you're all done?
Yeah. So if the assets are already analog, meaning things that you can touch and feel, the tangible, like photos and slides and negatives and all that. So again, we clean those and we curate them. We're
Mhm.
heavily curated agency where we don't want to scan things that are like, when you were a kid and you went to the zoo and you have a bunch of giraffe and monkeys and all that. Who cares? You might want to keep them, doubt it. You
Mhm.
definitely don't want to scan them, for them to
Right.
be scanned. But so
Mhm.
so all those, after we're done with digitizing and scanning and archiving all those, we archive them into our archival boxes.
Mhm.
And other choices could be, we've had clients who have opted for us to make albums with those photos, with the actual physical photos. We had a client who had photos from the early 1900s all the way to last year, and she has them all on a bookcase. She wanted to be able to flip through and see the
Mhm.
original photos. We can make really simple scrapbooks with the photos. And my favorite form is to make digital photo books, meaning
Mhm.
because I like to play around with size, because sometimes, having a photo book that is just all 4x6s can seem a little boring to me. Sometimes I want to see certain photos much larger and other photos much smaller. So being able to create that in a digital format for me is much more exciting and more dynamic way to enjoy our photos. And of course, like, designing gallery wall where, you have your photos either in an entryway or on the steps going up. Those are always really fun to be able to look at, but those do need to be refreshed once every 6 months to a year.
Mhm. I like that. Yeah, because I think about my photos and some photos that I took a few years ago, I have new ones that oh, now I really like this one. So yeah, I think that's a great reminder. And so, yeah, I love talking about your business. I love what you're doing. I think it's so important to think about not only from a family perspective, but also from a business perspective. But I love to include, like, you're also a stepmom and you include your stepdaughter in your business. And so, talk to us about what that's like and what you do to manage it all. And what do you do for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, as many women entrepreneurs, I unfortunately, my lesson in this life is to put myself first, and it's hard.
Right?
You know, the business always comes first because I am the breadwinner, and yeah, and I wanted to include my heart daughter, who's in this office right now. She's in the room right behind me.
Aw.
She's my senior organizer. She's very detail oriented, and
Mm-hmm.
she's just has a great eye for which and she curates all the analog.
Mm-hmm.
And she came here during the pandemic. She called us on March 9th. And of course, as many of you remember, March 13th, at least in LA, March 13th was the lockdown. And she said, I don't want to be in New York. I don't want to quarantine by myself. So I'm going to come home for 2 weeks. And I thought, well, they are calling this a global pandemic, but okay. So, of course, she never left.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, actually, that forced us to find an office because our home is rather small. It's only 1,100 square feet on 2 levels. So we ended up putting all the scanners on the dining room table. And then that, you know, that's not my movie. And I thought, okay, I can't live like this. And so we found an office. And then, of course, this was our fourth office in 4 years. We kept growing and growing. But it's really important. For me, family is number one. And whether I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so I believe that we have chosen, our soul has chosen this experience to learn from it. And whether we like our parents or siblings or children or not, um, we made a choice for them to be in our lives on some level.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can take a look at it and go, oh my God, why me? Why do I have to have this mom or dad? Or we can take a look and say, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this experience?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I get stronger from it? So through that lens, it's easier for me to navigate with difficult family members, but I am so blessed that my heart daughter and I are each other's people. And so it makes it so much easier for us to be able to work together. I mean, I wouldn't have hired her if she wasn't my people. And
Right.
I don't know if my husband would have married me if if we weren't each other's people, because it's hard, it's really
Right.
difficult.
Yeah.
Because she lost her mom when she was 13 and I met her
Mhm.
when she was 21. So I am very blessed to have had the experience of being her heart mom.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been wonderful.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast yesterday that talked about, 0 to 3 and then 9 to 25 are really important times to have your mother in your life. So I just thought I would share that with you that you're in that
Ah,
window of time. So, but so yeah, I love that you bring that perspective and that heart to your business. And I truly think that that's what helps us as business owners and as moms and as women stand out and really not only create a business, but a business with an impact that leaves an impression, that leaves a legacy, not only in financial wealth, but in emotional wealth. And so I just love that perspective. And I think that too helps any business owner deal with difficult clients and figuring out their purpose and pivoting in their business when they need to, just like you've had to do, whether it's been
so many
during
times.
the pandemic or when you're growing and all of the different, and you have to constantly deal with technological advances and, all the
Constantly.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So, yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk a little bit about, you're going to, as an entrepreneur, you're going to find clients that are not your people.
Right.
And it could be, they could check off every box of a perfect client, but
Mm-hmm.
then there's just the icky feeling in the pit of your stomach. It's just like that, it's just like dating or
Mm-hmm.
making friends or going on a job interview where, oh my God, it sounds perfect, but your actual boss may give you the ickies. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to trust your gut feeling. That is your connection to your source. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to stay connected and trust your gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that comes your way, whether good or bad in business, is going to be a test of some test, test of something.
Right.
And, last year I actually fired 3 very big clients, and it was really hard for me to do that. But the first one was, I thought I was going to die, but it got easier. Not that easy, but easier.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding that someone is not your people, like just like I explained my process to anyone, if they start doubting my process or questioning my pricing or asking for a discount right off the bat, it's not my vibe. If you go to the bank, are you going to be like, why are you charging me this monthly rate? Can I get a discount? You would never do that. Or or to a lawyer. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you would, but doubt it. Doubt you'd ever get a discount from a lawyer. You know, um, so it's just like knowing what those boundaries are. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really important as entrepreneurs to know that.
Especially as women and moms, we're taught to serve everybody and to be all things to all people. And I think that that is a particularly important lesson that, female entrepreneurs have to learn, especially because I think that is one of the ways where the magic happens and you start attracting those clients that make your job feel effortless and you feel really kind of in flow with what you're doing is when you start creating those boundaries on who you really want to serve and you get to select those people.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that that was a really important point. So I don't know if you gave us so many tips, but if there was anything that you wanted to leave listeners with, like a step that they can take today to start to organize their business or their family assets
Mm.
better, or maybe a mindset shift that they could have to help them see or do things differently, what might that be?
For your business, think about your future self.
Mm.
And even if you think it's just silly, oh my God, who's going to want to buy my business? Really start telling yourself someone's going to buy my business, even if you don't believe it. Just keep
Mhm.
telling yourself that. And what would that look like? So getting prepared for that now for the future. I mean, I say this, and there's so many aspects of my business where it's still unorganized. So it's done is better than perfect.
Mhm.
Starting somewhere, anywhere, uh, you
Mhm.
know, um, where you can easily find your financial statements, you can easily find your passwords to anything that related to your business, all the things. Like if it's almost like estate planning. Like, God forbid, if something was to happen to you, are your things in order for someone else to be able to come in and be able to figure it out,
Mhm.
even if it's hard to figure out. So that's one thing. That's the business stuff. On the personal note of photos, just take photos intentionally. And the most important thing that I teach everyone right off the gate is the thing that you hold in your hand is a camera, and please clean the camera lens. I get so many photos that are blurry from the makeup line and the selfies. Like, you have it against the kids are all over your phone. Clean the camera lens with your t-shirt, with your jeans, whatever you're wearing, just clean it before every video and every every shot. And be intentional with what you're shooting. You don't need 57 photos of your kids' first day of school. I promise you.
Or what you ate for dinner.
Oh yeah, and don't take food shots. Just don't, please.
Aw, I love that. So I am sure listeners are gonna want to connect with you. So where can they find you and all that you're working on?
Well, our website, we do a lot of, we're going to have a lot of really amazing workshops this year. Um, I know this is going to come out much later than when we're recording, but the workshops are going to be continual. So please visit our website, Picturli, Picturli.com. I have also composed a 7 steps to organizing your photos, which you can get at picturli.com/connect. And it'll take you to signing on our newsletter, and you'll automatically receive where to find that.
Mhm.
You'll automatically get it. And otherwise, yeah, well, I do all the newsletters. So, sometimes I send 1 or 2 out a month, and
Mhm.
sometimes I skip a couple of months because we get busy. So you're not going to get spammed, I promise.
I love
And
that.
follow us on Instagram. We do a ton of content on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, and also Facebook. Yeah,
All right, great. And I'll leave links to all of that in the show notes below.
amazing.
Haleh, it's been great to talk to you. I love your story. I love the passion behind your business and the heart that you bring to it and
You.
the memories that you're preserving for so many. I think it's just so special. So
Thank you
thanks.
so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.